Hello and welcome. I live in Maine, and at the time of this recording, it's getting cold with winter just around the corner. Since I took up cycling again a few years ago, I've looked for ways to keep riding in the winter. I started with this Mongoose Spectra that I built from a $25 box of parts. That's a whole different story. I had a steel Mongoose Dolomite, which I rode on trails in the winter for a few years, and I now have a Mongoose Dolomite ALX fat bike. Great for trails, but I am not running that on sandy, salty, slushy roads. Instead, I bought a Schwinn AL Comp hardtail from Walmart. They had 4 on the racks, so I grabbed one. My plan for this bike differs from upgrading to reduce weight and trail capability as most AL Comp owners do. Rather, I am going to modify this bike for winter on-road riding, up-armoring in a manner of speaking. But first, let's take a look at it in stock form and then take it for a test ride. The AL Comp, as the name suggests, has an aluminum frame. All of the welds look really nice and consistent. The silver fading to black frame is attractive without being gaudy and overdone. And the finish is matte textured, so that gives it kind of a sleek modern look. The simple black graphics appear to have been clear coated, which will prevent peeling. The cockpit includes a 700mm wide handlebar with an 80mm stem. The handlebar has a mild rise and sweep, and somewhat oddly is made of steel. The stem is alloy and seems to be well made. The grips are textured rubber slip-on units with separate bar end plugs. Shifting is accomplished with a pair of Shimano rapid-fire combination trigger shifter brake levers in a 3x7 configuration. That brings us to the drivetrain. The bike has 175mm unbrented crank arms with a riveted 22, 36, 44 riveted chainring. Pedals are molded plastic and, other than branding, appear to be the same ones used on lower cost Mongoose bikes. Not surprising, since both are made by Pacific Cycles. The bottom bracket is an old school cup and cone solid axle unit with caged bearings. The front derailleur is an unbranded unit. Not much more to say about that. The rear derailleur is a Shimano tourney, shifting the chain on a Shimano 11 to 28 tooth freewheel. The rolling stock front and rear consists of 27.5 by 2.2 inch unbranded tires with a reasonably knobby tread on Schwinn double wall alloy wheels with Schrader valves and unbranded hubs. The front wheel has a quick release skewer, but the rear is an old style bolt-on, which I will address later on. Attached to the wheels are cable-operated disc brakes operated through the rapid-fire combo shifters. Up front, the AL Comp has a Schwinn-branded spring suspension fork. Now, make no mistake, this is not a high-end fork. It has no adjustment features, none at all, and it feels fairly stiff. And although the AL Comp has a bona fide tapered head tube, the fork itself is a straight tube unit. Last but not least, the saddle is a plush vinyl unit with subtle black stitching and a subtle black Schwinn logo. It is mounted on a 27.2mm steel seat post using an old style side clamp. Essentially, the 2021 Schwinn AL Comp is a well-built entry-level hardtail bike. With a few carefully chosen upgrades, it can be turned into a capable trail bike as seen on the Kev Central YouTube channel, among others. But I am going in a different direction with mine. As I mentioned earlier, I want to reconfigure this bike for riding on roads in the winter. Now, on this first ride, I just wanted to find out how the bike performs and what, if anything, needs attention. Starting out in the middle chainring, the bike accelerates nicely and the ride is fairly cushy. Now, yeah, I did hedge my bet on the ride quality by not running a super high pressure in the tires. Also, in the small 22-tooth chainring and third gear on the freewheel, this bike easily climbed a short but steep section of the trail. The low-end fork provides a surprisingly nice compliance. I mean, seriously, I was surprised. The fork had 65 millimeters of maximum travel on an unpaved section of the ride, and that is certainly enough for riding on the paved sections of the trail. Now, 65 millimeters is not great, but it's not bad for what the fork is. The rear derailleur shifted perfectly right out of the gate. Didn't have to do a thing to it. The shifts were quick and precise, which honestly is pretty much all that you can ask of a tourney derailleur. The front derailleur, well, that was a different story. The shift from the middle chainring to either of the others was slow and not very precise, as you can hear. I fiddled with the barrel adjuster and that helped somewhat. This leads me to think that it's just a cable tension issue, not something endemic to the derailleur itself. The ride posture is comfortably upright, and since I have back issues, I do pay attention to that. The steering is quick and precise, despite the relatively long stem. And I imagine a lot of the steering quality is due to a longish handlebar providing somewhat greater leverage, and to the not so aggressive tire tread. The saddle is soft and comfy, although after a bit more than an hour of riding, my nether region was a bit uncomfortable. I think that a saddle with a relief channel would solve that issue no problem. Now, it took a few tries to get the saddle height dialed in, but yeah, that would be true for any first ride. So, here is my general plan for this bike. For around $10–15, I can convert the bolt-on rear axle to a quick release. And why Schwinn didn't do that for $10, I don't know. To address the slush and the other road misses, I'm going to install actual honest-to-goodness fenders, probably a set designed for a 650B gravel bike. I'm going to install an aluminum triple crank set with the same gearing as the stock one, and a Shimano STX rear derailleur, both left over from my 1999 Hard Rock. To minimize contamination, I'm going to replace the cup and cone bearings with a sealed square taper bottom bracket. I have a leftover 100mm travel SR Suntour XCM fork with a manual lockout that I could use, provided I get a straight to taper adapter, since the stock fork does not have a removable race. But that's not a high priority for me. And I'm on the fence about an aluminum handlebar, since weight reduction isn't my primary goal. Now, in stock form, I think this bike would be great as an entry-level gravel bike. Or, with more pavement-oriented tires, it would make a great commuter bike as well. It's also a good frame set upon which to base an upgrade build. Below left is a link to a winter fat bike ride of mine, and below right is another video that I think you will enjoy. As always, thank you for watching. I do appreciate that. Goodbye, and have a great day.